First of all, I will request Sanjeev Jaiswalji, who is the Vice President and CEO of MHADA, to talk about some of the progress and achievements of the affordable housing scheme in the Maharashtra state and how it can be a what you call learning for other states also.
Thank you, Raviji, and a warm welcome to all the panelists present here. I think it's a very interesting question that you have asked, Raviji, that what is the role of MHADA as far as affordable housing is concerned, and what are the measures that we take to promote this. So as I said in my inaugural speech today, MHADA has a legacy. And, like state government was very, I would say, advanced at that time in thinking to have a separate organization or a body for the construction of affordable houses in the state and especially in Mumbai. Initially, the journey started with the government giving land parcels to MHADA. And on those land parcels, MHADA used to call for contracts and going for development of buildings, keeping in mind the pricing of it. But over the years, as land has started getting scarce, and there's a paucity of the land that is available for the state government to pass on to MHADA, the focus has changed now. Now talking about Mumbai specifically, the whole thrust in Mumbai is on redevelopment. Now when I say redevelopment in Mumbai, it has two components. One component is for the 114 layouts, which is owned by MHADA and leased to various societies. And the second aspect is about the so-called cess buildings, which basically are dilapidated buildings which are still being housed, but their construction is almost 60, 80 or even 100 years old. With a spree of policies and amendments in the DCPR and the other UD related issues, government has been constantly trying to see that it is very viable for a private developer to come across and take this redevelopment. So when I say viable for a private developer, ultimately, as a government organization, our primary focus is to protect the rights of the tenants who are residing there. And even if their existing carpet area is less than 160 square feet or around 180 square feet, as mentioned by Sandeep in his presentation on Raymond's, the square feet that they are giving in terms after the rehabilitation is as good as 560. And that is the case everywhere. So under 33(5) now, as a thumb rule, no one gets less than 508 square feet. And for the rehabilitation of the cess buildings, which is governed by my colleague, Mr. Shambarkar, who is heading the repair board, no one gets an allotment of less than 300 square feet. This is the bare minimum. Thereafter, there are certain incentives that is given. So under 33(7) redevelopment, apart from the basic area which I mentioned of, there is an incentive of 5%, 8% and 15%, which is given if it is one building or more, two buildings or more than 5 buildings. Similarly, we have also a concept whereby the plot size is also a factor for getting an added incentive. Third is what we have in the state is we have a calculation that is made whereby the ratio in terms of the land rate and the rate of construction. So based on that ratio, another percentage is passed on to the tenant or the people staying in the society. So it's a win-win situation. People staying in dilapidated buildings or people staying in buildings which need to be redeveloped do not have the means of redevelopment on their own. So they are compensated by giving a better house with much better amenities of a higher carpet area, which makes them come forward to go in for these projects. And second is that because of the increase in FSI which has been given, so like again as I mentioned under 33(5), the basic FSI is 3, but if the plot area is more than 4,000 square meters or and abutting an 18-meter wide road, then they are entitled to a 4 FSI. Similarly, for the redevelopment of the CES buildings, the basic FSI is 3, but supposedly the rehab component is more than 3. Then the incentive is in such a way that practically the FSI that is consumed at times goes up to as high as 7 or 8. So we are seeing a change. A lot of private developers are coming forward. Very big names in the real estate are coming forward and going in for projects under redevelopment under both the segment. And the one reason which I foresee for most of the private players to play a very proactive role is also the fact that Mumbai being a landlocked city, there's a constraint of land. And the only solution as far as the future is concerned for affordable housing would be a vertical growth. And at the same time, MHADA as a state government organization, our responsibility is to see that it is within the affordability limits of the people, especially in the category of EWS, which is the economically weaker section, and LIG, that is the lower income group. Thank you.
Let me request each of the speakers to talk about the role of public-private partnership and what are the challenges. And I think each of the states have different challenges because of like their own issues. So let me request experience from Maharashtra.
Maharashtra has been a pioneer state as far as PPP models are concerned in the housing sector. If I were to list all the projects which are being done in this model, I think I would be eating up on the whole day for the panel discussion. But just to give a brief about it, let's start from Mumbai. So Mumbai, some of the mega projects that are happening right now, for example, even the BDD redevelopment or the Kamathipura redevelopment which will take place, Abhyuday Nagar which is in the pipeline, Adarsh Nagar, GTB Nagar, even the Gandhi Nagar layouts. So typically it is a PPP model only, but the only difference is that here there is also a third party which is the original tenants or the people who are staying there. That is one. Number two is that as far as housing across Maharashtra is concerned, then we have had a lot of JV policies executed by MHADA or the local urban authorities, whether it is the municipal corporation. And in Maharashtra specifically, we have a separate housing board which is called MHA Housing, which primarily goes into a JV model of redevelopment or fresh greenfield projects, whereby a private player, government, and ultimately the beneficiary. So this is very well set here. Now, the challenge in this is that all these projects take a lot of time, especially if it's a greenfield project. And if it is a brownfield project, then there is the gestation period for the project to start off is at least 2 years to get the land vacated, to get them shifted, to come to an amicable deal as far as what is the rent to be paid, because that much of transit accommodations are not available, and limited, again, the related issues of permission, clearances, and so on. So somehow, because land, land as a purchase factor is something which is not financed institutionally. So the initial capital which is stuck up on the point of if I see it from the developer's point of view, and thereon, the first return that they can expect is when they start their free sale booking, which is again linked up to completion of the rehab in proportion. So this makes the cash flow little difficult. So this is one second aspect which I would like to highlight as far as Mumbai specifically is concerned. Coming back to PMAY, as mentioned by my esteemed colleagues from Orissa and Madhya Pradesh, I would be honest to say that Maharashtra has done good in PMAY, but maybe it was not as good as expected. In terms of figures, we have also had almost 12 lakh houses, out of which 6.5 lakh houses is under the CLSS model, Credit Linked Subsidy Scheme, and under the various components of BLC, AHP, and we also have something called AHP, PPP, and JV model. Roughly around 4.5 lakh houses are planned to be constructed. A lot of them have been completed. But one major reason as to why the HP model or the PPP model, as far as PMAY is concerned, could not really take off in Maharashtra is because we have had a revision as far as the development control rules are concerned. So initially, like Mumbai has its own DCPR, and for the whole of the state, every corporation had its own DCR, and for the remaining, the regional plan is to prevail. Government thought that we should bring a uniformity. So barring PMRDA, which is the Pune Metropolitan Regional Development Authority, all the other places now are covered under the provisions of UDCPR 2020. Now, what has happened is that if you see the zonal FSI, the basic FSI which is available, which could vary from 1 to 1.1 or 1.2, and our policies also allow for taking FSI on a premium payment basis and take on more FSI by purchasing TDR. So under PMAY, the FSI that you get is 2.5, and if it's a Greenland, then it's 1. But without taking the benefit of PMAY, if I were just to say the base FSI plus the FSI on premium and the FSI which can be taken through TDR, though it has a cost, that ranges anywhere between 2.2 to 2.8. Then the question that comes from the mind of the private player is that supposedly I can get 2.2 or 2.8, obviously at payment of some premiums or buying of the TDR, then why should I bring in a cost cap as far as my selling price is concerned? So this is a big challenge that we are trying to tackle. Now that the government of India has announced the PMAY version 2, we are trying to work on more on JV schemes to make it equally attractive to the private players to come forth under the PMAY schemes or the such housing schemes. And before I conclude on this particular point, I'm happy to say that one of the biggest PMAY projects in the country has been successfully executed in Maharashtra through MHADA. And the Raynagar project in Sholapur, which was basically designed for the absolutely economically downtrodden BD Kamgars, the BD workers, who have been given houses under 5 lakh per unit. And this project was for 30,000 houses in one single layout, where the infrastructure cost and the services have been provided by MHADA in terms of water supply, sewerage, road, electrification, stormwater drainage, and so on. And as we speak, in the month of February, the Honorable Prime Minister was himself here to hand over the 15,000 keys to the beneficiary, and the remaining 15,000 beneficiaries we are expecting to hand over the keys by March or June latest next year. Thank you.
Mumbai is also hub of one of the most expensive real estate in the country. So every day we are like seeing announces 50 crore flat, 100 crore flats and stuff like that. So there is a huge anomaly between affordable housing and the premium housing. So as a housing department, like what is the vision to keep the housing accessible?
You have hit upon a very touching issue as far as Mumbai is concerned. It's a fact that the prices of the housing units in Mumbai is very high. As I mentioned in the earlier part, that the affordability index of Mumbai is around 51 in 2023. The good thing is that it was 53 in 2022. And if I were to speak about the affordability index way back in 2010, it was around 93. Pre-pandemic, that is in 2019, it was around 67. So from almost 93 in 2010, we have come down to 51, but yet it is very high than the national average, which is around 30. And that is what the guidelines of the housing department says. Second aspect is, as per the definition of RBI, the affordable housing pricing as far as Mumbai is concerned is 65 lakhs. I'm happy to say that the houses that are constructed by MHADA in Mumbai also, in the category of EWS and LIG, the price ranges anywhere between 30 to 60 or 70 lakhs on an average. So that's the reason as to why, the number of applicants that we received in our online lottery is many a times more than the number of houses which are being allotted. To just give you an example, right now, the Mumbai board lottery is live. And for 2,000 odd houses, we have already received more than 60,000 applications. 6 months back, we had another round of Mumbai board where for 4,000 houses, we received almost 1,20,000 plus applications. So MHADA houses are definitely very much affordable. The concern is for the affordable housing which is made available through the private sector. Now the silver lining is that if all the redevelopment projects, whether it is the almost 2.25 lakh dwelling units which are in the 114 layouts, or the roughly 2 to 3 lakh dwelling units which are there in the CES buildings, in the next 10 years or 15 years, if all this go for redevelopment, apart from rehabilitating the original tenants out there, this is also going to bring out in the open market roughly 8 to 10 lakh houses for sale. Now when I say 8 to 10 lakh houses for sale, if the supply would be so high, then definitely the equilibrium of pricing would have a slight positive impact as far as the costing is concerned. Second is, if you see Mumbai, you see it's a landlocked city. The services are already very strained. It's almost on the verge of not being able to absorb more. Every day we have hordes of people coming in the city. Slums are there. You have to be rehabilitated. And as a government organization, our priority or our focus is to provide affordable housing to the commonest of the citizen, to the person who has an income in the range of 6 to 9 lakhs or even around below 10 lakhs. There are certain issues pertaining to the real estate sector, especially in terms of certain demands of theirs that, for affordable housing, if the GST can be waived, which is almost 5% of that, and also the stamp duty. So for MHADA housing under PMAY, we take a stamp duty of only 1,000 rupees. But for them, again, the stamp duty is 5%, and then there's an add-on of a metro cess, which is another 1%. So straight, if GST and the stamp duty and the metro cess, if it can be reworked, maybe a 10% reduction can be in the offering. So that is one aspect which is being very deliberately being considered by the state government and is being pursued with the central government for a policy change in this regard. But I, as a VP MHADA, I personally feel that there wouldn't be, I would say, a very high price reduction in the coming years. But definitely there would be a curb as far as the rise in prices are concerned, especially in the sector of affordable housing. And because we are determined to provide absolute affordable housing to the poorest of the poor, and there's another organization by the name of SRA, which is the Slum Rehabilitation Authority, which is headed by another officer, but under the housing department, and with the vision of trying to make Mumbai slum-free. And a lot of models are being worked to either take over the stalled projects or the projects which could not take off. I see to it that a lot of housing stock will come to Mumbai in the next 10 to 15 years. And just before I conclude, one last point I would like to mention that recently the state government has done an amendment as far as the MHADA Act is concerned. So we did not, for the redevelopment proposals, we did not have any enabling provision. It was all dependent on the society or the landowner to submit a proposal. And if the proposal was not submitted, MHADA had no power to ensure that the proposal comes through. So with this amendment of 79A, which is a landmark amendment, MHADA now has been given the right to declare a building dilapidated. And once it is done, then after the mandatory period of 3 months, the landowner has the right to submit a proposal for within 6 months. If he or she is unable to do so, the tenants get this right for the next 6 months. And if neither are able to do so, then this right of appointing a developer or going in for the redevelopment comes to MHADA. So this was never there. This is the first time that an enabling provision has been made in the Act. Similarly, for projects which were sanctioned but had taken off but was stalled for various reasons, there was no major provision within MHADA to see to it that it can issue a stop work or cancel the NOC. Most importantly, take over the redevelopment project. So this amendment has been carried forth in 91A. And I'm happy to say that, roughly notices under more than 850 notices have been issued under 79A and almost 60 plus notices have been issued under 91A. Last but not the least, related, I know I'm extending my time limit, is the issue that one of the major lacuna was that the landowners always had a resistance when it came to forceful acquisition of the land, because the compensation that was paid to them was very minuscule. So it was just, as per the provisions of the Act 92 or 93, it was only 100 times of the rent which is nothing. The rent was already freezed under the Rent Control Act. There are disputes going on. So every time the forceful acquisition used to take place, people used to go to the court, there used to be litigation. Now with this amendment, a very positive change has been made whereby 25% of the ready reckoner value of the land or 15% value of the free sale area, whichever is higher, is to be compensated to the landowners. So in the current scenario, if I just put a gist, the basic issue of land compensation has been sorted. The second issue of giving an enabling provision to MHADA to call for proposals for redevelopment has been resolved. And thirdly, a provision which empowers MHADA to take over these stalled projects has been made. So we are also trying to make a roadmap to see to it that at least the CES, almost the 13,000 odd CES buildings in the island city of Mumbai come in for redevelopment in the next 10 to 15 years. And believe me, Raviji, if this happens, it's going to be a game changer as far as the skyline of Mumbai is concerned. And it would definitely provide a big impetus to affordable housing, especially in the category of EWS and LIG for the downtrodden and the poor citizens. Thank you.
Before we conclude, I just forgot to mention one point. You see, over the years, MHADA was being a facilitator between the private developer and the residents. Apart from being a contractor in the sense of, appointing contractors for construction of houses on its own land. In the last 6 months or 1 year, there has been a slight change as far as the objective is concerned. And like 2 projects which I can mention of, which are going to be very iconic projects and, a game changer again as far as Mumbai is concerned, is where MHADA has stepped in as a developer. So, instead of the conventional way, we have stepped in as a developer and we are appointing vendors for the construction of the houses. So one classic example is the erstwhile, what it is called a BDD chawl, which spreads across almost 92 acres in Mumbai in 3 prime locations. And only the residential tenements which has to be rehabilitated for people who are having a holding of around 160 square feet to free of cost 500 square feet houses. And most of the houses will be having a sea facing view. Out of this 16,000 odd houses in 3 locations, the actual construction of 6,000 plus houses have been started, and we are targeting the first delivery of the houses somewhere in March or June 2025. So this is something which is the new role that MHADA is stepping into. Second similar project which I would like to mention about is, it is slightly very legacy of disputes and fights going on in the courts, that is regarding Patra Chawl. But not going into the past history or the legacy, now MHADA is stepping into this layout also, which is almost again another 30 to 40 acres, wherein for the remaining plots which are in our possession or which are expected to come in our possession, we come in as a developer. We have just floated the bids for the appointment of a contractor, and the same pattern will be followed. So in short, you see, we are continuously evolving upon our role with the realization that land not being available, whatever is the existing land, how can we promote vertical redevelopment and at the same time ensure that the costing remains within control. To speak about the state, MHADA is also a special planning authority for a district next to Nagpur that is called Chandrapur. And a new Chandrapur is there where almost 1,300 odd hectares land. MHADA is the special planning authority. We are working on that also to see to it that a small township comes forth. And the government of Maharashtra's focus now is to see that with the enhancement in the connectivity in the MMR region, that is the Mumbai metropolitan region, especially with the Atal Setu, coastal road, the expansion of the coastal road further to Warsaw and thereon, and the multimodal corridor, and even the inland water transport. So government is now focusing on seeing that if we can have other magnets in terms of city potential in the vicinity and periphery of Mumbai. And over the last few years, if you see the number of construction which are taking place in cities like Thane, Bhivandi, Kalyan, Mira Bhayandar, Navi Mumbai, it is unprecedented. And with so much of a housing hub coming across under greenfield projects and in Mumbai as a brownfield project, in the next 10, 15 years, this whole MMR region will present an entirely different picture when it comes at the national scenario and even at the international scenario. Thank you.